Minikin 4 breaks, Clare 3 breaks, neither of them scored a try. Because every time they got halfway round the man, then they stepped back inside to try and beat him on the other side. Unbelievable. And Jamie Ellis was, well, it's all they've got. That's the only thing I can think of why he's playing. It's all they've got, because honestly, he was so off the pace. He could have scored a try, couldn't he? He got really close to scoring a try, and Johnny Lomax pulled off a brilliant cover tackle on him. But in the same breath, he just didn't have any kind of pace or zip to get away.
No, and the number of times it seemed like he was too, as you said, he was half a step or maybe even a full step behind, because he was trying to see what was happening in the defensive line. He wasn't just doing the core stuff of watching the ball into his hands, and just really awful kind of basic errors like that just kind of turned me off this game big style.
Paul McShane was knackered most of the game. He did do a lot of work defensively. He made over 40 tackles, but he was knackered most of the game, and that impacted his ability to attack. I don't understand why young Jax O'Neill wasn't brought on to put in some spice and speed round the ruck, because I think that could have worked against the Saints side that were not going to be up to their pure fitness levels, but their defence was outstanding, wasn't it? We're criticising Castleford's attack, and they could be out there now and still not score, but Saints' defence did withhold every single thing that Cass could conceive of throwing at them. Now, it wasn't brilliant stuff they were throwing at them, but it's still... that was part of why Cass had to keep crashing back in, because Saints covered everything out
they
wide
were covering
very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, to make 10 breaks and not to score is quite a record, isn't it, to be honest?
Shall we lead on to the thing that we're actually going to talk about then, by talking about the decisions in this game that have brought a particular negative attention onto the referee, James Child? There was 2 St Helens tries ruled out for obstruction in the second half. One was through Wellesby, and I can't particularly remember that one, if I'm honest, but there was an obstruction for that one. And then there was another one given out for an obstruction where Lomax made his way through the defence, but Child blew up for the obstruction, and to me, this was obstruction. Luke Thompson ran a fantastic, committed, dedicated, powerful line. He just so happened to finish his line in the defensive line as James Roby stepped behind him before throwing the ball. So there was 3 defenders that were sucked into that dummy run, legitimately, but then as soon as the guy passing the ball has the ball in his hands behind the back of the man who'd ran into those blokes, it's obstruction. And no one...
It's going to be given.
And they're coming around and saying, what else can Luke Thompson do there? Well, don't run the line then, because if you can't execute it, you can't win from it. It's just how the game is.
Yeah.
Sadly, we don't play NFL. We don't allow all this blocking going on, and to me it felt a bit like that. Even though the defenders chose to make that decision, they didn't have, similarly to what could Luke Thompson do differently, what could the defenders do differently? You've got the best prop in the competition running one of the most powerful lines right at you, half a metre away from where the ball's played and where where the ball looks like it's going. To me, that was obstruction. I don't understand why there was a fury. I don't understand why Tom Smith has written in his match review that after McShane conceded an ill-disciplined ruck penalty, minutes later Lomax sidestepped Ellis and Mike McMeekin to send the stadium into raptures until Child blew his whistle for yet another obstruction, this one more head-scratching than the first. I wasn't scratching. I was scratching my head at the outcry about it. But that's my opinion on it anyway. Maybe I'm different to everyone else, I guess. What was the Wellesby one then? Was that on the other side of the pitch? I can't remember.
No, I don't remember it either. Sorry. No. Well, perhaps James Child had perhaps he'd had like an emotional trauma the week before, and maybe he just wasn't quite emotionally in the right place to be refereeing this game.
It wouldn't have been an emotional trauma. It'll have been some nonsense on Twitter. What did he call it? What did he call it? The first time when he tried to make out it was something of nothing.
Yeah. What?
A pathetic spat on the open sewer, that is Twitter, he called it. Not a death threat, but anyway.
No.
But then he did clarify that he called it a death threat in his second response, which just heaped more criticism on Robert Hicks. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, talk away.
Yeah.
Set the scene for people who... I can't believe there's anyone listening who doesn't know, but there might be some people who listen who don't know about this. Set the scene.
Who haven't seen the program notes. Yes. So Eamon Manus thought it was appropriate when he was writing his program notes for this week's game, basically to have a go at Robert Hicks's state of mind, effectively, and his ability to be fair-handed in his refereeing of the cup final, and he didn't feel that it was appropriate that he was selected on the basis of the experience that he'd had, and apparently his willingness to take part in a media interview about the whole circumstances, and apparently that made him unfit to referee the final. Which, let me just say this, if Eamon is listening, that is utter and complete bollocks. Let's just be very clear about that.
If he had such an issue, Alan, if in his words, that the perception of officiating impartiality was destroyed even before the kickoff, if that was the case, Robert Hicks wasn't named as referee minutes before the kickoff. Eamon McManus could have called this out a week before the kickoff. He could have even written to the RFL after the incident with the Warrington fan, which, by the way, was over a month before, and the apology meeting and stuff like that was over 2 weeks before, so his timeline was fucking wrong. But let's, we kind of put a weird exaggeration on truth. We'll talk more about that later. But when we were trying to drive a point home. But yeah, if that was the case, Alan, why didn't he pick it up before kickoff? Why didn't he pick it up before Robert Hicks was even appointed to this match? Why did he only mention it after a decision in the opening minutes went his way? And yes, like we discussed last week, there was a couple of other decisions in that first half that went the other way from his team as well.
Yeah, I just can't. The tone of it is completely unacceptable. The tone of it is bringing the game into disrepute. It is questioning the integrity of a match official. And if a player does that, he gets a damn long ban. So it shouldn't be acceptable that a chairperson can do that.
Yeah, this is
quite
not
frankly.
Someone criticising an individual decision. This is not even Justin Holbrook saying that call went against us, but credit to Warrington. This is, like you say, questioning the impartiality and credibility of a match official. That is a step beyond what is reasonable. It's even more beyond what's acceptable for a man in his position to be doing, I think. But it's a step beyond
completely.
Reasonable. He's doubled down as well, because if anything, his second statement was even more critical of Hicks than the first.
Yeah. Maybe he thinks it's a nice distraction from the fact that his team completely shit themselves in the final yet again, and maybe he just thinks it's a nice distraction and I'll get the attention on me rather than on the team. Maybe that's some kind of twisted logic behind that, but quite frankly, it's an appalling thing to say. And if he can't see that ultimately that's appalling, I have no words to describe the kind of the tone and the sentiment behind it. I think it's absolutely disgraceful.
The other line that is in the second statement: perceptions of even-handedness and impartiality are as important as reality. This can be no more so than in the instance of refereeing, where the integrity and the perception of integrity is paramount. No other professional sport would have made such an appointment given these prior disturbing events and facts. It was therefore inevitable that his decisions would be under heightened scrutiny from both sets of fans, and that any incorrect decisions would be questioned at accentuated levels, particularly if any were inexplicable. Okay, I watched this game not in the stadium, so I was watching it and had social media on. I'm a keen follower of things and pick up on things, and there's a lot of people out there who send through stuff to us, isn't there, when we maybe haven't spotted things. Eamon Manus is the first person I've heard mention this. I'm not saying that other St Helens fans haven't, but ones I see and follow on Twitter and are aware of and listen to, I haven't seen them mention this as a reason for that decision at all.
No.
I don't really think many St Helens fans have pulled out a biased or corrupt or any sort of card like that. Just Robert Hicks should have sent it up and it was a mistake.
Yes.
So McManus has changed the tone of this conversation hugely.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's right the way he's done it. I just don't. Look, he's hurt, he's upset, and he's deflecting as well a little bit from
Definitely
all the errors
deflecting.
his own team made, all the errors his high-profile players made. But, look, his best two players this season didn't turn up in that match, did they, Coote and Lomax? So, deflect. I guess they've got an important run in to try and fix their form in, but how do we expect things to improve when... And he's just legitimising all the bollocks that fans spout about how referees are turning them off the game.
Yeah.
Referees aren't the reason why you won't fork out 22 quid to go watch a game, why you won't spend an hour on the motorway driving to watch a game. It's because you don't want to, people. That's the truth. If you wanted to go and watch it, you wouldn't not go and watch it because of the referee. And do you know how I know this, Alan? Because every time you go on any forum the day that the match official appointments are announced, right? Any fan forum, okay? And every single one will be saying, "Oh God, we've got him. He hates us." Because guess what? Fans are biased. Fans are impartial. Referees are not. They are not biased. They are not partial. Fans are partial, sorry, not impartial. Fans are biased and partial. Referees are not biased and impartial.
Yes.
And that's the same every week. So
yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, this is the thing. It's we talked about it last week, but the snap decision in the first couple of minutes was in my opinion, was an attempt from Hicks to set the tone in terms of that he was key. He was confident to make a decision, and he made the call, and he wanted to get on with it. That for me, that's the interpretation.
No. He made that decision because he didn't want to receive any more death threats from Warren.
That's right. Yes, that's right. That's much more credible.
Now, let's also remember that it's kind of been the way we talked about the way they dealt with this. I think it was me and Tim, wasn't it, who talked about the way that this was dealt with, and how in reality, whilst it would have been worrying and upsetting because it was worded as a death threat, it wasn't actually a legitimate death threat. It was just a fucking idiot saying something fucking stupid. Okay, so that's why they've dealt with it the way they dealt with it 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever 3 weeks ago, whenever the meeting was held and stuff, and then the publicity came out a few days after that, and then there was the interview a week after that, etc., etc. Hey, that interview helped put profile onto the Challenge Cup final, but forget about that side of it. I don't know.
What do you think about? Because I've seen a bit of heat today about Super League haven't responded in any way or shape or form. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a fair comment. It is a fair comment. There is a worrying situation developing here, isn't there, where Robert Elston was appointed by the chairman of the Super League clubs. So he's acting in their interest, and therefore he can't really... Maybe he feels like, or actively can't be, or however it is, can't be seen to be coming out and talking about this. Now, what he should be saying, maybe, or what the Super League should be saying is, this is an RFL compliance matter, and we're happy for them to deal with it, and we'll provide any input that they need from us to deal with their investigations, and leave it at that at this stage. I don't think they should be being seen to prejudice the case one way or another, but yeah, the silence is worrying because it's kind of like it's been insinuated. Why is he just going to do what the chairman want? Is he just going to bow down to them and not actually come out and criticise or punish? And where is the punishment for this sort of thing? And where is the line? What does Super League accept and not? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. What's stopping Ian Lenigan coming out and saying something outrageous or whoever. Do you know what I mean? It's this. At the end of the day,